Jack, this is a Baker style ejector system, or so you tell me. Let's take a look inside of here, and why don't you show me how that works, and then what we can do to adjust it if it would be out of time.
Yes, the Baker system is one of the most widely found types of ejector mechanism in English guns. You'll find a lot of the greener guns have this type of ejector system. Although it went out of popularity, it's been replaced in most cases by the Southgate system. Now, this is operated by a little slide coming out of the knuckle. And
we fired the right barrel,
so the right side to show that this little projection sticking out of the knuckle of the action.
And it's not, of course, over here because this barrel's not been fired.
That's been fired. It's withdrawn into the body. Now that locates underneath this little part here, and lifts that part when the gun is opened, thereby operating the ejection. It's a very simple system. It's only got 3 parts either side and a little pin to hold it. I'll just take this apart to show you how it works and what adjustments there are to it. You have to take the 4-end iron out of the wood to get at it. So another little screw back here, which I mustn't forget.
So now we got the iron separated from the wood.
Now we've got the iron separated from the wood. Now the next thing is to decock the ejector mechanism.
So you're going to trip them just exactly the way that
as they would, but I'm doing this from inside virtually.
Right. And you couldn't get them apart. Couldn't get the ejectors apart.
That's right. If you don't, you can't disassemble the thing in the cock position. There's a little pin goes through the 4-end iron, which holds 2 extensions on the ejector boxes, as we call them.
Down here, I believe.
There we go. That's a little. There's the little pin. The next move is to lift out those ejector boxes under control.
They're still spring-loaded quite a bit now.
The springs are good pressed. If I lift them without putting something over them, like a piece of old rag or cloth, they'll fly. And we'll be looking around the workshop for parts all day.
I've never had to do that, Jack.
Oh, I'm sure you haven't. Yeah. I mean,
you're just prying up the back end of them and letting the spring push them out.
I'm just lifting up the back end and something catching on the vise here. There we go. Now here's the two sides of the ejector mechanism. You take it all out in there. There's the 4-end iron. 2 sides, left and right. They're both.
You can't get these mixed up.
You can't get them mixed up. The only things you can mix up are the springs. They're sided, left and right. There's the ejector kicker, the ejector spring, which is just a coil spring, just an ordinary coil spring, and the ejector spring box. you can understand why this went out of fashion. It's too complicated. I mean, if one of these parts broke, to make one of these parts would take a long while.
Now, Jack, in terms of the actual operating of the ejector itself, we know that this little tab comes out of the receiver when the barrel is fired.
That's correct.
And we know that it's going to interface with something.
It lifts underneath the bottom. This is the bottom part. It lifts underneath this little piece here and lifts that, which swings on a pin there. It lifts that, and it also at the same time it lifts this ejector kicker, which is in there like that. It lifts that part, and this ejector kicker sits in the cock position. It sits there like that. It's this little
that little step right there,
angled part there, sits against, goes down under a little shoulder there, which is a little insert,
which is hardened steel insert.
Hardened steel insert there. And I'll show with this one, when the box and the kicker and the spring are all lifted underneath this, by this part here, this angled part there is lifted up until it clears this little shoulder here, and then under the influence of the spring it moves forward and hits the extractors and completes the ejection. It's pretty simple, but
just a lot of complication to the parts.
The parts are complicated. Well, the most complicated part is the ejector spring box, which, as you can see, is quite a complicated piece.
So that's how it works. Let's take a look at what you have to do to adjust it if it's out of time. Now, this is the way the ejector sets in the frame in the fore-end iron. If it's ejecting too quickly, Jack, where do you adjust?
There you would take a little bit of metal, remove a little bit of metal from off this little surface here, the part which is lifted by the little tag that comes out of the knuckle of the action.
So it just lifts a little bit more slowly.
So it's not lifted so fast. And if you wanted to, if it was ejecting too late, you could take just shave a little bit off this edge of this surface here, just at the rear of that inclined section there, where that little inclined surface, that's the second surface back on the side of the kicker.
And that allows it to clear that little hardened steel insert.
That's right, it allows it to
literally pop forward
a little bit sooner. You're only talking about a few thousands to adjust this, you see.
That looks like a pretty straightforward process once you know how to do it.
That's
Not much problem to do it, but most folks would have trouble figuring out what to do. But if it's too early, we take a little bit off here. If it's too late, we take a little bit off there.
That's correct.
And that ought to bring it right into time. Well, that's very good. Let's put it back together, Jack.
Okay.